the Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore how empathy, connection, and purpose transform business from the inside out. I'm Tullio, and I'm excited to dive into a conversation that's all about the power of building true community in business. In fact, the Harvard Business Review study shows that companies fostering strong connections see 50% higher employee retention and 56% greater productivity. But community is not just about culture. It's about creating a shared purpose that resonates beyond profits. Our guest today is Devan Kline. He's the co-founder and visionary of Burn Boot Camp. Devan and his team have turned a fitness concept into a movement that empowers people both inside and outside the gym. His leadership philosophy is rooted in connection, belonging, and creating meaningful impact in every community they serve, and they serve many communities. Devan, welcome to the show. To get us started, what was the original inspiration behind Burn Boot Camp, and how did the community become such a core pillar of your brand?
Well, Tullio, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with everybody. And, it's a real privilege to be able to talk about the business and what we've created and just spread, like you guys do, like spread the kind of counterintuitive way to build a company, which, it's the 80s notion of kind of power suit and power tie is long gone. And, owner, founder led companies like myself, we have a privilege because we get to be the voice box, especially, on amazing platforms like Bliss Business Podcast and other podcasts that we're able to go on, and it doesn't just happen overnight, or it doesn't happen without intention, I believe that every company is a direct reflection or a mirror reflection of the founder's attitude, their effort, their beliefs. And it's just, kind of a microcosm of that personality kind of manifest into a company. And so, I would say that my company is authentic to the personality, who I am. And I don't try to be anybody that I'm not. I don't try to put on and pretend like we actually try to build a company through positivity and optimism and empathy and community and connection. It's just who I am as a person. And that, really reflects out in all 400 open Burn Boot Camp locations. And we're in 44 states too. So it used to be like, Devan, how are you really going to scale this whole thing? Where my goal wasn't never to scale it. I think that's the answer. It was to show up when we started back in 2012 with $600 in a parking lot after I got released from minor league baseball. I showed up then just trying to make one person's life better. And I always tell my people in my system that our goal isn't to get big. Our goal is to get better. And if we get bigger by being better, then we're going to be just fine. But not trying to keep the small town community vibe, just being that, right? And so we call it the championship culture, where it's this blend of, like we said, empathy and community and connection and belonging. But that community, connection, and belonging has a definition, and it's rooted in excellence, right? That's what the championship culture is all about. It's rooted in excellence of personal and professional standard. Like if you come into our organization and you don't hold yourself to a high regard and a high standard, well, this place isn't going to be for you, right? And it's, sometimes we can confuse empathy and connection with everybody kind of gets whatever they want all the time. That's definitely not the case. Go study any championship team and you'll see that the individuals that make up that team, have that excellence. They have that accountability in them. They're humble, willing to be held accountable, and are showing up wanting to improve themselves and something about the company every day.
I love the definition you've given about that's truly the definition of an entrepreneur, putting out who they are and building a whole movement around it. It's beautiful. But I know that Burn Boot Camp is more than just a fitness brand. It like you mentioned, it's a community, and it's built on trust and transformation. But maybe we could dig into a little bit, like what were some of the key steps you took early on to build that sense of belonging?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when we started, like I mentioned, we started in a parking lot, and all we had was, we were in North Carolina. And so in the morning, we would be in a gymnastics studio when the kids were at school. And then when the kids came out of school and were using the gymnastics studio, we'd be kind of kicked outside into the parking lot. And if you can imagine, close your eyes and just visualize like the summer months in North Carolina where it's 98 degrees, and it's people showing up at 4:30 p.m. and the sun's beating down, and all you really have is each other. We didn't have a big fancy gym or any equipment, or any air conditioning for that. So we took all the watts that you might have away, and what we ended up with, each other's needs, right? Which is community, connection, belonging. People come to me and they think that they want to, get a six pack or have, get ready for the bikini body in the summer or something like that. And, we all know that those are superficial goals that don't really keep us motivated long term. I think what people really want, is belonging and connection and self-esteem. So we always say, we're not a fitness company that sells memberships. We're a confidence company that sells you on yourself. And that fundamental kind of, change in the language there really set us apart when that's, inside of our DNA, from our core values to every camp that we run, to our front desk, which we call Burn Ambassadors. What's unique about our business is Child Watch. So we really speak to moms and dads and parents who otherwise don't have that, access to that kind of community where they can find the sense of belonging, because like, how expensive is it to, put your kids in childcare while you go work out. So we provide that amenity for free at all of our locations. And so it was about understanding universal human needs, and really going beyond fitness and understanding human psychology. We've all heard of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We have 6 human needs, and the top is self-actualization. So to fulfill your potential and to know thyself, but right below that is community, connection, and belonging. And so what has made Burn successful is we can see through the superficial motivation of wanting to be fit, and we can get right to the core of it, right? The inspiration, why you're doing this is so you can fulfill yourself for the people that you love in your life and belong to something that's bigger than you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Because otherwise it's just a transaction. I think you just cracked the code as to why most people fail in their resolutions to go to the gym, because they're just going there for the transaction of getting fit instead of belonging to something that makes them feel something more than just the need to fulfill a transaction. And that brings me to asking, maybe what advice would you give to other leaders or entrepreneurs who do want to create that customer experience that feels more like a community versus a transaction?
Yeah, that's a great question, because you do see a lot of organizations that they'll have like the bumper sticker core values, right? And they'll say something along the lines of, here's, we're people first, right? Well, is that really, when you look at the DNA of the company, is that kind of interwoven through everything? And if you're people first, then you understand the following. And I think here's the real, the cracking of the code, if you will, isn't necessarily what people think it is. It's like, hey, what's your vision and why are you here? That type of question of, understand the why. What I've found in my career is that it goes far beyond that, right? And inspiration and motivation as a human being comes back to one word: love, right? And it's we either do things for the gain of love, or we don't do things because it potentially could lose love. And if you think about everything you do, you can always trace it back down to the gain or loss of love. That's psychology and human motivation. So the question isn't why, the question is the who. Like, who are you doing this for, right? I always give an example at Burn University, which is a training program we put all of our franchisees and our key leaders through. And I show them this video, and it's a YouTube video of a grandmother. And this grandmother, her grandchild is literally stuck underneath the back end of a vehicle, like a 2-ton vehicle. I don't know exactly how many pounds it is, but it's not, it's 1,000 pounds plus. And this little old grandmother, because her grandson is trapped under this car, actually physically lifts the car up enough so that he can wiggle out of it. And it's like, that's like superhuman strength. And, this grandmother doesn't, like even me, if I went up to the back end of a car and I just tried to lift it up because there was $1 million under the tire, like I'm not going to be able to do it, because there's not that level, that desperate level of motivation there. Like you can move mountains for who you love, but if you're just focused on what you're getting, that superhuman ability doesn't exist. And so it's a mind-blowing video. If anybody wants to watch it, you can like Google Granny lifted up car, and there's a couple of videos out there that'll show you.
I also think when you're doing something completely selfless for others, you tap into a different energy source that helps you too. But that's a conversation for a whole nother day. So as you scale, I mean, this is amazing. Like you can feel the authenticity of who you are and everything you're bringing into your business. But as we scale, sometimes it's hard to maintain that authenticity. And you've scaled quite a bit. So what's the secret sauce there? How do you maintain that authenticity in the face of scaling and growing and not having that tightly knit community like you did when you were first starting out?
Yeah, one of the hardest things that I ever had to do in my career is step away from the mic. So I'm a trainer by trade, and that's how I started my career after my professional baseball career, which ended just short of the big leagues with the San Francisco Giants. My goal was to make it, to at least have the opportunity to be world class at something. And so that's really the beginning of starting the fitness company. And I remember I went to a Tony Robbins event because I knew nothing about business. I barely knew what the word entrepreneur was, even though I was one since I was 12 years old. And it's when my wife and CEO and I met when we were 12, and I started 20-minute snow removal in the winter and 20-minute grass cutting in the summer as my first official franchise. I didn't even know what the word entrepreneur was. And so early on, I'm 24, 25, 26, and I'm going to everything I can get my hands on to learn business, all the books that I can possibly read. I went to a Tony Robbins event in the East Coast of Florida. And I remember the president of Soul Cycle at the time, which was a boutique company they were not so popular anymore, but they were there for a while. And a woman in the crowd asked the question. She said, well, where can I find out about franchising information for Soul Cycle? And the president of Soul Cycle, I won't say her name, but she kind of chuckled and ha, like, oh, funny question, because we're not a franchise, in like a snooty tone. Like, you can't scale what we have at Soul Cycle, which is a feeling. And so there's like this industry notion that you couldn't scale feeling, that you couldn't scale emotion. And kind of simultaneously, my wife, Morgan, and I, she was the COO at the time, and I was the CEO at the time. We looked at each other simultaneously and kind of, didn't say it, but could read each other's eyes. We were like, BS, like, okay, challenge accepted. And we're going to go do that.
Nice.
I think it's pretty safe to say that at, 400 locations open in 44 states, that we can't possibly be everywhere all the time, that we've been able to scale that emotion, that feeling, that connection of belonging. And it's because, like I said, we're focused on one member at a time, showing up and changing somebody's life, like you mentioned earlier, from the inside out, one household at a time, and never overlooking how discouraged some people can feel in the four walls of their house, and never overlooking that experience. Even on a Friday evening, which is our, least heavy traffic time because people are out doing their Friday thing. On a Friday evening, when it's somebody's first camp, and you might not have like your superstars in at that moment, but those, that brand ambassador, that trainer that might only have 5 or 6 camps a week, those are the times that we really need to shine, and we really need to be great, because that person that's walking in has so much going on in their life that we know that they have going on. They don't even have to tell us, right? We understand how hard life is. And I mean, life is what is a lot of philosophers will say something along the lines of, life is mostly suffering, and how you deal with it depends on how happy you are. And so we understand that life, just especially as I get older, just keeps coming and coming and coming, and it doesn't stop. The death in the family, the getting, I got fired from baseball. That was a tragic moment in my life. You get fired from a job, letting go, your child breaking their arm, whatever it might be. Life keeps coming at you. And we always need to remember that no matter what, it doesn't matter how big we get. What matters is how much we can impact that one person Friday evening, 45 minutes, where they come in and they say, you know what? Wow. This person, this burn ambassador who I had no idea who they were, they knew my name before I even knew their name. They gave me a high five. They might even gave me a hug if they read that I was a hugger. They put me on this floor, this thing that I was super nervous at. I have this preconceived notion that gyms are just shame people that are overweight or out of shape, or what we would call deconditioned. And that didn't happen. I actually felt so welcome. They asked me, why am I here? And they asked me, who am I doing this for? And they actually cared about me on a Friday night. I don't even know these people. Like, wow, that place really left an impression on me. And if we can just continue to do that over and over and over and leave an impression on that one person that walks in on a Friday night, then we don't have to worry about how big we're going to get, because or marketing or messaging, because our members, the people whose lives we're impacting, they're going to do that for us because they're just so happy and overwhelmed with the way they were treated. They have to shout it from a mountaintop. And last thing I'll say about that is back to those standards of excellence. We're in America. It's a competitive marketplace. If you're just good, you're going to get poor results. If you're great, you might get some good results. You have to have excellent standards. You have to go above and beyond to make people impressed with you and leave an impression on them if you want them to be your raving fan or your marketing and referral army.
So much to unpack there. I used to buy into that ideology of life is suffering, it's how you deal with it, until I learned something called gratitude. And then I realized suffering is optional. Even when you go through difficulty with the right mindset, you can still feel joy. So suffering can be optional.
It could be. I think gratitude.
There are some real sufferings out there, no questions about it.
Yeah, gratitude is like an antidote to the suffering.
Yes,
you want to have happiness. There also has to be the anti-happy, right? Or else like kind of the sunshine and no sunshine without the rain deal. So I respect kind of like the whole spectrum of consciousness, and I think what you're saying and what I would agree with you on is like staying in suffering or staying in dwelling and sitting there is a choice when you have this thing called gratitude that can be an antidote to pull you right out of it.
But it's also the expectation. I strive for fulfillment, not happiness, because happiness is a fleeting thing, right? Just the same way suffering can be. But it's a mindset, but it takes time and through some challenges to get to that mindset. So I'm curious because I love the fact that you and your wife are a team at this. And so I'd be curious, and I'm going to go a little off script on the typical question. I'd be curious to see, were there any stories from the community that truly represent the impact Burn Bootcamp is having on people? And perhaps maybe even more personally, the impact it's had on you and your marriage, working together as a team on this initiative, challenging the status quo, going above and beyond to prove, some of these things to be not true. Just curious to anything you could share with us, both either personal or an impact on someone, within the ecosystem of Burn Bootcamp. Love to hear.
Tullio, for sure. I can do both of those things simultaneously. I think, in this mentioned status quo, you've heard this many times, like you can't be successful and healthy and have a good marriage. Like you can't do it all. So, and you get this notion, and especially the circles that I run in, most of my friends that, or have big companies and multimillionaires or billionaires or whatever they are, their health suffers a lot of times. Like if you looked at all of them, you'd see your health suffering. And again, like, gratitude is a choice. Yeah. I think that is a choice too. You can make the decision, to put the healthy food in your body, to do the workout. And ironically, that actually, health is, if there's like three things that matter the most, health is, at the center of that. Like your energy and your emotion creates movement and momentum in your life. And if you're not at peak energy, if you're not in a peak state of being, it's very hard to be successful. It's very hard not to dwell in suffering. or in shame or doubt or whatever negative emotions on the spectrum that we might feel. So Morgan and I have always, like I said, not tried to be anything other than who we were. We just always thought that, hey, it makes logical sense that if you take care of your health, you're going to have a better mindset. You have a better mindset. You have a higher likelihood of, success and ambition. And so we ended up being a healthy family, a wealthy family that build a business with our family and our 3 kids, Cameron, Maxwell, and Ryan, for families, for our members who mom and dad, our burn sisters, our burn bros, and then our kids that come into Child Watch and do our kids camps, right? We built the company for families with other families. When I was down in Naples, Florida, after I got released from the San Francisco Giants, I worked at a box gym, and that was kind of my foot in the door to the fitness industry. We can talk about that whole story another day, but I had a trainer there that I worked with named Patrick Hartman. Well, Patrick Hartman is now a multi-unit, and him and I were both, I wasn't single at the time. Morgan was my girlfriend, but Patrick was single at the time. We both weren't married, both 2 young trainers who were on the path and on the journey. And when I ended up moving to Charlotte to start Burn, I brought Patrick up to Charlotte, and he ran one of our South gyms. Turns out himself, he's in Atlanta, opens a gym, gets married, opens another gym, has some kids, opens another gym. Now they're getting ready to open a gym in Dawsonville, Georgia, and he's absolutely like blowing it out of the water. His wife McKenna is amazing. His business partner, they're doing it together, having children, and it's just this. It's goes back to the point of every founder. The organization is a reflection of the founder. And, Morgan and I have had ups and downs, like peaks and valleys of this thing. Like we had to go through this whole period of time where we physically had to ask, hey, what hat are you wearing? Literally, we'd had to ask each other that question, because it's mom hat, it's sister hat, it's wife hat, it's CEO hat, it's trainer hat, it's author hat. We wrote a USA Today bestseller. So at one point you're wearing all these different hats. It's like, okay, we kind of all have this inherent multiple personality disorder. So you better have a mechanism for understanding which version of the person that you share a business with. And it's even harder when you share life with, because sometimes she might not be happy with the visionary. I might not be happy with the CEO, but we can't spill that over into not being happy as husband and wife, right? And so it's a very tricky dance. And what we've really learned to do is just say, hey, what hat are you wearing? I used to go into her office when she was wearing her analytical hat or her spreadsheet hat as the COO. And I would be like, hey, I've got a vision. And I would just drop a vision bomb on her. And she would be typing, look up at me with blank eyes, like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. I don't have time for your 25 vision bombs. And so what I learned was to say, hey, are you in the mode to hear some ideas? So everything is now prefaced with a question. It's pre-qualifying. Are you ready for this?
Is this the right time for you?
Is this the right time for you? Yeah.
I love it. I mean, what you're describing, I've often talked about this because people have a view of what success is, but it's single dimensional, right? It's like you do well in business and you think you're successful, but you're describing being multidimensional. It's, having it all, doing it all, and doing it in a way that's balanced. And it's a beautiful thing. Not a lot of people can do that. Most people struggle with that. But we have a question from the. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to add, when we talk about this, going beyond fitness and creating a community whose highest need is self-actualization. We actually teach that, right? What you're talking about. And we put it in a pie chart. There's 8 pieces of it called the Burn lifestyle. It's mind, it's body, it's relationship, it's spirit, it's emotion, it's time, work, and money. And when you put all those things together, you have to kind of have a daily ritual in each one of those things, or else, the money bucket will take over, or the health bucket will take over. And, you can be the most healthy person in the world, but if you can't provide for your family, then, we just really try to preach being well-rounded, and thought it was worth saying that, that's an intentionality behind the culture of Burn Bootcamp, is to actually show people, our lifestyle and to actually teach them and be proud of what Morgan and I have built and show them how we do it.
Sounds very similar to what a lot of the late Justin Sterling used to do with the Sterling Institute, the men's and women's weekends. But we could talk about that another time. We have an audience question. Devan, where do you find this great people to be part of your team? And I would like to add where and how you find these great people to be part of your team.
Yeah, this is a great question because, I joined YPO and Young Presidents Organization. I was one of the youngest to be in it at 26 years old. Wow. And what they said to me was, hey, you are an entrepreneur. And what you need to do is surround yourself with professionals that know what they're doing. And you need to go out and hire these franchise executives. And, that never felt right to me. I've always been a person that moves off intuition and gut feeling more so than data. I respect data and I will use it to be a part of my decision-making process. But other people's opinion and data and outside sources that don't come from like my gut internally, I've learned to trust myself. And especially when all others are doubting you, to trust yourself. And that's turned out to be very good. And from the very beginning, I said, you know what? I don't know about that. What we're going to do is we are going to go find people who absolutely love this brand, that they have this championship culture mindset, this standard of excellence, the ability to be held accountable, which is an ability, and the hunger to constantly improve themselves every day, who have a great attitude, great effort, great belief systems, who are just inherently good people. I can teach them how to be business people. I can teach them how to, be a trainer. I can teach them how to execute our sales process. And so we are very much an organization that pulls people from the organization and grooms them to be a part of Burn Bootcamp. I mean, you see this all over our organization, from our executive leadership team to our COO and CEO to our head trainer at our flagship gym, which is the gym that I work out at every single day. Her name's Ashley Beasley. She was a member, and now she trains over 2,500 trainers every year. And 10 years ago, she was a nurse practitioner and had no training background at all. And so I take people who have the natural enthusiasm and who have those kind of intangible traits that you can't teach. I can teach you the blocking and tackling of business all day long. So we really triple down on that. And then what happens is that we've created this natural pathway to go from member to maybe Burn Ambassador if you're not a trainer type, or maybe to a trainer, or maybe to Child Watch, our 3 key areas of the gym. And then from there to maybe, be a training manager, or an area manager, a regional manager, an operations manager. Maybe from there, go to a single unit franchise partner, right? And maybe from there, you're really good at a single unit franchise partner. We're going to award you more locations. Now you're a multi-unit franchise partner. Scott Tobin is our largest franchise owner. He has 13 gyms. He started off, I built a gym in North Raleigh in North Carolina. I built it with my bare hands, Morgan and I, and a partner. And we sold it. So we hired Scott to be the trainer. And then I sold it to Scott to be the franchise partner because he earned it. And I said, Scott, you got it. You're good. That's one thing I'm good at, is identifying that talent in people and saying, hey, I believe I can see in you what you don't see in yourself. You're going to own 20 of these things one day. And he told me, I might own a couple, but 20, you're crazy. And then here we are on our way to 20 pretty quickly here. 20. He's on his way.
I just want to let all the Zero Company teammates know we're going to block Devan's email from being able to poach any of you guys, because he described all of you guys in this comment. We got one more question from a LinkedIn user. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be? That's a great question.
Yeah, if I could go back and give my younger self a piece of advice, what would it be? It would be, your ambition is not your identity. I think I got so caught up for so long in the need.
Okay, can you say that again? Say that again. Really, please say that again. Your what?
That your ambition is not your identity.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And, and I didn't think, I didn't really think about that question before now, but that's exactly what it is. Because for so long, what I struggled with was not that I'm telling people to set down their ambition. I'm actually not saying, I'm saying the opposite of that. I'm saying once you let go of that need, the key word being need, the absolute need in order for you to be fulfilled, to be achieving in business, once you let go of that need and there's not all that forced kind of excess potential going toward this need to be aligned with this person who achieves, and if I don't achieve, then the sky is falling. If you let that go and it just becomes a part of who you are and it becomes something you really want to do, but it's not a need for you, that you're not hanging your identity on being somebody that achieves, because then you get one bump in the road and you get some boos from the crowd, and all of a sudden you might have the tendency to go south emotionally pretty quick. Or on the opposite side, if you're doing really well and your identity is focused on just your ambition and just your achievement, and you get all these cheers, it's like, well, that's not good, because then you think you're better than you actually are, right? And you haven't, and I went through this. I didn't run into any adversity until the pandemic era, where gyms and bars were like public enemy number one. And so, it forced me to really go deep and get introspective during those few years. And I had to figure it out from a emotional intelligence standpoint. So that would be my advice to my younger self would be. And what actually happened was that now my ambition grew, because I wasn't so like, what I actually cared about were the 4 people in my household that I cared about, the amount of love and memories that I could make with them. And as soon as that's the axiom of my fulfillment, business just became the side dish, and it wasn't the main entree. And I mean, life has exploded since then.
It's so powerful when that happens. It's so powerful when that happens. And the goal sometimes is the right goal, but your approach to it needs to evolve. Like I look back and I wanted to be the CEO because I wanted the power, the prestige, the accolade that go with it, right? And then you get there and you're like, man, it's lonely up here. And then you realize, well, really, what do I really want? It now is to set people free, is to create an environment where people can feel empowered, can grow and learn. So it has meaning. So I love that. The goal might be the right goal, but maybe give it more meaning. That's not about you. Then you can actually bring it to life.
Yeah.
So let's shift a little bit about the business, the model, the systems you might have put in place here. According to Deloitte, companies that prioritize connections are 4 times more likely to outperform their competitors. Clearly, you've spoken about that. You're doing a great job. And we talked a little bit about your, the business really being an extension of you and your wife. But from a systems perspective, are there any processes, anything in particular that you sort of like, these are the things we do in and day out that we built into Burn Boot Camp that ensures that connection stays at the heart of the growth? Are there any systems you've adopted? Please share those with us.
Oh yeah, this is the number one mistake that people make that lead with love, is they think love is going to be their business model. And I always give them the analogy of walking a tightrope, and you have one wind coming from the left, that's profit, and another wind that's coming from the right, that's culture. And you have to balance those things, because because if you're too profit heavy, you're going to fall off one side, and if you're too culture heavy, and you're like, oh, rah, here we go, we can do it because we've got spirit. Like, if that's your mentality, you're not going to be successful. There's no chance you can scale. And so for us, it's all about processes. And the way we look at it is we take the emotional connection that we've created inside of our members, and we quantify that. So you can quantify anything. Similar to Ritz-Carlton, though, if you've ever been to a Ritz-Carlton, you know that when you walk in there, they know what your favorite wine is, what kind of food you like, how to fluff your pillow, what temperature you like. It's like, how do you guys know this stuff, and how do you tailor it to me so that it fits this personalized experience? Well, it's a process. The emotional feeling, the feeling you get from a brand, is all a part of the process. So from our burnbootcamp.com, when you land there, the feeling that you get, the copy on the website, to the emails you get from our CRM, to the names and high fives that you get from the Burn Ambassador when you walk in. We say from door to door. So when you pull up to one of our gyms, you're going to hear the music from the parking lot, because a lot of our members are coming in early in the morning and they're tired, and we want them to feel that energy right away. We call this the blue carpet experience. So the BCE, we quantify the blue carpet experience. It's a checklist. We have all of our processes, all of our procedures in the box that is Burn Bootcamp, quantified down to the most finite detail. And then we actually manage our business to this. And we teach all of our franchise partners and all of our HQ locations that you can't manage what you don't measure. I learned that early on in business. So you have to be able to manage the emotional connection. How do you do that? You measure it. So we have the blue carpet experience that basically quantifies how well that you do. When a member comes into your gym, how well do you do? Like, do you do A, B, C, D, E, F, G in order? Or are you skipping C and maybe over F and getting to Y too quickly? So it is absolutely 100% the only way we've been able to do what that president of SoulCycle said we couldn't do, which was scale the emotional connection and tangible feeling to our business. To scale that, you need processes. And we not only need them, they're our oxygen. It's what we breathe. My COO, she is the process queen, and she is a rock star when it comes to building and executing and holding people accountable in our culture to the process.
In speaking with a lot of franchise owners, and one thing that's become very clear is those franchise work with systems. You got to have systems in place so someone can step in and replicate. So a lot of traditional business can actually learn a lot from franchise owners about creating repeatable, scalable systems.
Have you ever read the book E-Myth?
No.
It's by Michael Gerber. It's a great read for first-time entrepreneurs, and it says exactly what you're saying. He says, no matter whether you're going to scale a business or not, you should treat your business like a franchise. You should treat it in the regard of which you have everything detailed. I'm fortunate enough to be buddies with Jimmy John from Jimmy John Sandwiches, and you listen to him talk, and he's like, when we go into the box, it is everything, down to the detail. He goes, you can look at the door of the entryway to a Jimmy John's, and if you see a corner of the door that has dirt in it, you know that Jimmy John's isn't going to be as successful as one that doesn't have dirt in the corner of it, because of the attention to detail. You
got to maintain those standards. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
We've touched on this a little bit as we get close to wrapping up here. We often ask these questions about purpose, and a lot of research shows that purpose-driven brands create more customer loyalty, 3x higher than their competitors. You touched on this here and there, but I really want to highlight this if you could. What is the deeper purpose behind Burn Bootcamp, and how does this shape the way you lead?
I mean, the purpose is simple. It's to inspire people to fall in love with themselves. And so many of us are in our own head. We're constantly beating ourselves up. We treat others better than we even treat ourselves. And to be able to love yourself today so that you can actually have an inspiration on who you'll be tomorrow, that's the key. Because if you're not inspired by the future, I mean, then all that's left is today's issues, today's problems, the complexities of today. And life can't be all about solving problems for other people. We've got to be, there's a song by J. Cole, which I'm a rap fan, so I'll quote J. Cole. It says, love yours. There's no single life that's better than yours. And, so many people look around and look at, his life or her life. And I've been a victim to this. I think we all have at some point, and say, oh man, they have what I don't have. And at the end of the day, Burn Bootcamp exists to show yourself how strong you are, how capable you are. And fitness is just like a metaphor for us. It's really not even what we do. We're a confidence company. We're teaching you how to be confident and have a high self-esteem. Okay, and we're going to do that by introducing you to this tangible thing that's a dumbbell and looking at you and saying, hey, Tullio, you're lifting a 20 right now. I know you can lift a 30. And you're going to look at me and be like, oh, I don't know. And there's that doubt, right? And as soon as that doubt creeps up, bam, here's the 30. You do it. We high five. I told you you could do it. And now you're reinforcing yourself. And when you continue to reinforce yourself over and over and over and over, it's like a seed that grows into an oak tree, right? It's like you keep watering that confidence over and over and over. We have a Keep Moving Club, which is how our members keep track of how many camps they do in a year. And it's not that we care about the number. It's that we know if you get to 50, 100, 250 camps, man, you're going to go from this little tiny seed of confidence into, an oak tree of confidence. And, it's pretty hard to chop down an oak tree once it's grown.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, you described design thinking principles to the T there. One final question before we wrap up. I have a feeling I know what the answer is, but we ask this question to every guest. What role does love play in business? Do you think it belongs in business?
I think it does belong in business. And here's what I'll say. I've heard people on like the internet, they'll say, don't treat your business like a family. A business is not a family. And there's some truth in that. But at the end of the day, I think the better way to say it is don't treat your business like a dysfunctional family. Because in a dysfunctional family, what brothers and sisters and moms and dads will do to each other is they won't tell each other the truth because they fear that they'll lose love from that individual. When in a functional family, I love you so much that I have to tell you the truth that that dress might not look the best that it could, or, hey, that business idea isn't the best business idea. And here's why I think that, because I don't want you to go out there and fail and feel that pain from failure. So I am willing to be the bad guy and tell you the truth, at least from my perspective. And then your obligation on the other side of that is to not take that personal and realize that it's coming from a loving place. And so I do treat our business like we're family, and we don't sweep problems under the rug. In fact, that's what kills most franchise companies. It's this franchisor versus franchisee, Lord versus peasants mentality, throwing stones at the castle wall because the franchisor hides information. They're not transparent. They're not honest. They don't come forth and really put the issues on the table. So Morgan, as I mentioned, is our CEO, and her number one role when I'm sitting back and I'm looking at like, how did you do last year as the visionary and her counterpart? How did you do last year? It's two things. Did you put all the issues on the table? We call it the issues list. We have a quarterly meeting every quarter. We call it the family meeting. We lead with the 15 issues. We spell them right out, almost like B Rabbit from 8 Mile when he says all the things that the other battle rappers say about him. I don't know if you guys follow my metaphor. I told you I'm a rap fan, but he says all the things that the other side could say about him before they can say it, so that he just lays it all on the table. Now, what are you going to say, right? Because I've given you all of these issues. Now you know that I know that what the issues are, and I can frame those issues in a way that empathizes with you and how it cascades to your team and how it becomes a problem for you. Now you know that I'm on your same page and I'm on your team, and I'm really fighting for you as the CEO, the COO, and the visionary in our C-suite, as opposed to just getting up there and how many times have you seen this, pointing to the charts and saying, look how good we're doing. Yeah, look, cherry picking all these numbers when yeah, we know we're doing good. Okay. We're doing some great things, but the reason we're doing great things is because we identify issues. We're not afraid to say that we were wrong. We'll be humble. We'll go out, we'll attack those issues. We'll solve those issues, and we'll focus on getting better every day, not bigger.
Love it. Devan, it's been great to have you with us today. How can people find out more about you, and how do you like them to reach you?
Burnbootcamp.com is the best place you can go if you want to find out more about the company. Instagram, Devan Kline on Instagram. If you want to connect with me personally, I'd be happy to hear about your business, give you some advice. I'm pretty active on Instagram.
Great to have you again. If you've enjoyed the show and you think someone could benefit from it, share it, repost it, like it, comment, follow us. Thanks for joining us on the Bliss Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time.